sad day.
Oh, not right now, thanks.
No comments on Mr. Stelmach's leadership? No? Nothing?
I was surprised, and that's all I have for comment.
What can you say about his leadership? I mean,
It's been my honor to serve in Premier Stelmach's cabinet, and an honor that I will cherish for the rest of my life.
and Mr. Stelmach himself, what were your thoughts on his leadership?
I think he was a wonderful leader, and I think he truly has the best interests of Albertans at heart, and I'm sure he didn't take this decision lightly, and he did so, as always, in the best interests of Albertans.
The key thing about Premier Stelmach is he's always put what's best for Alberta first, and I think the decision he made today was just that. He came to the conclusion that the distractions around him had become a hindrance to the governance and the moving of policy on in the province of Alberta. So he made a very difficult decision, and he decided to put his own personal political career aside and do what's best for Albertans, allow the government to get on with the business of government. I see a strong parallel here over to Premier Campbell, British Columbia, that resigned, I think, in a similar circumstance a month or so ago. Again, he said, I've become the distraction. I want to do what's best for the province. And the other parallel I see there is this is a very difficult time. By now, I mean the past 2 years with the economic implosion. In Alberta, it was even worse. Ed Stelmach became premier at the peak of the biggest boom in the history of Alberta. And 18 months later, we went into the worst recession of the world, not just Canada or Alberta, the worst recession of the world since the 1930s. These are very difficult circumstances under which to govern, and I doubt very much anybody would have done any better than Premier Stelmach has done. And again, I would commend him for the very courageous and difficult decision he made today.
How surprised were you by his announcement this morning?
I think everybody was completely surprised.
What about your future? You've run for leadership before.
Yeah, I've made it clear I think today would be inappropriate for me to address those kind of questions.
Speaking about the distractions that caused you to step down, how much of that do you think had to do with the royalties and how they were handled?
I'm not going to go back and rehash history. As I said before, I doubt very much, if I look back to 2006 and the leadership race, I don't think any candidate in that leadership race would have done any better than Premier Stelmach has. He was in the very difficult position. We've already talked about the economic collapse. He also, anybody following in the shoes of Ralph Klein had a very difficult task to fulfill. Popular executives, the next person always gets unfairly compared. And Premier Stelmach didn't have the other advantage that has made a lot of Alberta premiers popular, which is a bully Liberal Prime Minister in Ottawa. There was no Pierre Trudeau or Jean Chrétien to rally against, right? So you put all that together, I think Ed Stelmach has led the province through four of probably the most difficult years this province has seen since the 1930s. And it's easy to criticize mistakes on this policy or that policy, but I would say I've learned a lot in the 4 years under Premier Stelmach. And I've come to realize what a difficult task government is, even in the good times, and under the times that we've had for the last 4 years, you can double or triple that. So.
But if all what you said together, are we to conclude then that Ed Stelmach was not a popular premier?
Well, you guys run the public opinion polls. I'm not going to comment on that. I think Albertans realize, certainly all Albertans who know Ed Stelmach, who've been in a room with Ed Stelmach, who've traveled with Ed Stelmach, know it's pretty hard to find a nicer guy, a more honest guy, and a guy who is less selfish.
Having said that, will it be easier to be a progressive conservative in Alberta in the next election if Mr. Stelmach, for whatever reason, got a bit of a rough ride? I mean,
yeah. Again, I know your guys, your business is to kind of create controversy and get some news headlines. I think it's quite inappropriate for me or any other member of caucus to answer those kind of questions today. Today is Premier Stelmach's day.
You allude to this lack of consensus, I guess, or a range of opinions in caucus about what kind of a budget this should be. How was the discussion with Treasury Board today? Is it also a range, or is there more consensus in terms of what this document should be about?
You know, we're in the budget season. Budget is probably 4 to 6 weeks away. I can't be any more specific. And in the budget season, nobody, particularly the finance minister, talks to the media about what's in the budget.
Do you agree with, just going back, do you agree that the budget can't be balanced until 2013?
Very difficult trade-offs. Very difficult trade-offs. Go back to what I said a moment ago. We have $4 billion less today, last year, this year, and the next 2 years than we had for the first 4 years I was up here, and that's not coming back.
Well, in keeping with your political traditions, I guess, you would say you shouldn't be spending money that you don't have.
Well, again, I think Albertans should realize that, in part thanks to decisions made by Premier Stelmach, we went into this recession with $18 billion in the Sustainability Fund, which is basically a shock absorber fund that allows us to deal with the ups and downs of a resource-based economy. And while we have run deficits, we've run 3 and we're going to run 1 and now maybe 2 more, all those deficits have been covered by the Sustainability Fund. And so while we've had deficit, like every other province, unlike every other province, no new debt, right? Because we had a savings account. And that'll be another legacy of Ed Stelmach's.
But when that shock absorber gets down to metal on metal, what happens?
We got to start rebuilding it, and we have plans for that as well.